Walls can only protect a person for so long. When catastrophe comes knocking, you have little choice but to answer the door. The Gestapo burst into the inn, as they had into so many homes and businesses. Hungry to discover fuel for their fury, here they struck gold, finding a smuggler, a prisoner, and a rebel. There was no question that violence would erupt. What could I have done? The resistance was too brash and reckless to have stayed hidden much longer. I'm just glad Esther and Sophia had already left. Esther is trying to escape by train towards Sweden. She might need my help to get past the new checkpoints in town. Mr. Vestergaard says he has no power over the Gestapo, but surely he or Margit can somehow help me break Anders out at the station. Reinhard is finishing his deal with the smugglers from Copenhagen. If I assist him, he may be more inclined to help me rescue Anders. Esther is trying to escape by train towards Sweden. She might need my help to get past the new checkpoints in town. They herded us through checkpoints like cattle. They distilled our lives into little scraps of paper with grainy photos and scribbled notes. They took away our humanity in the name of order and conquest. But still, we persisted. I hope that little Sophia, at least, would grow to see a better future. Would we be ready for it when it came? Or would the habits of occupation linger for years to come? The war made us lose so much tenderness towards one another. We lost it because of fear. The soldiers lost it because of duty. Which was worse? The steam from the train rises in the horizon. If I falter now, Anders might be taken away from me forever. And just like that, it all ended. We ran and ran until we found refuge with a pair of local farmers who were willing to hide us from the Nazis. Anders and I huddled in solitude, hearing only snippets of news from a poorly tuned radio and our kindly hosts. Months passed, and on the 4th of May, Denmark was liberated from its German occupiers. But the war did not end quietly like I had hoped. There was a maelstrom of activity as Nazi collaborators were put into camps, snitches were executed by the resistance, and others were put on trial for treason. But in time, life began to return to its familiar patterns. We went back home. The house had been searched, though it was otherwise as we had left it. Once we cleared away the mess, it felt like no time had passed at all, like it was all a bad dream. But in all the nooks and crannies, the ghosts of the past were waiting for us to let down our guard, lest we forgot what happened and who we had lost. I saw Liva at the train station the other day. She was handing out pamphlets with a pair of young revolutionaries on her heels. She was a hero to them, both for her actions during the war and the organizing she had undertaken since. When she caught me staring, she smiled awkwardly, then looked away. Perhaps she was sorry for involving me in her plans and for the people who were hurt by our actions. But none of this stopped her from promoting her cause. I wonder if she will ever succeed. After he escaped from the train station, Peter had seemingly vanished into thin air. I often found myself wondering what had happened to him, until one day I heard a torrent of profanity from behind me. I couldn't help but smile as I turned to see Peter, haggard but alive. He had returned to Tinglev and was moving a load of car parts to his auto shop. You would have thought the tools had been Nazis from the way he swore while fumbling with them. Stahl died in the snow, unable to move beyond the ideology that had ensnared him for so many years. He remained a willing servant to his narrow, pitiful worldview until the very end. But at least we kept him from unleashing his full wrath upon our town. We were able to stop him, and others were able to stop Hitler. But we cannot forget this horrid war. We must never let something like this happen again. Margit wrote to tell me that Wolfgang returned to Germany in the closing days of the war. He had felt duty-bound to surrender to the Allies, along with the rest of his men. He was a proud soldier who was trapped by a system which exploited his pride. In a different time and a different place, he might have gone down a better path, and both he and Margit might have been happier for it. Early in the summer, Pastor Jacob asked me to join him at the train station. He promised a happy surprise, something which had become all too rare these days. Sophia, thin and pale, stood by his side. The three of us waited as the train screeched to a halt and a thin, fragile Esther stepped onto the platform. The nervous stare that she'd worn during the war was gone, replaced by tired eyes, which watered when she saw us. Sophia rushed into her mother's arms, and Esther hugged the child for a long time, drinking in the smell of her hair. It seemed she didn't want Sophia to see the tears that were streaming down her face. I am so grateful that they're both alive. I cannot claim to fully understand Reinhard. He was a selfish crook, indifferent to the harm his actions caused, but he was also smart. He was careful. He didn't rush headlong into danger unless there was a profit to be made. His actions at the station will always confound me. What made him so rash, so jittery, and so reckless? I don't know what happened to him after his arrest, but given how the Nazis treated their prisoners, I cannot imagine that there was a pleasant end to his journey. Olgerd Vestergaard requested a house call today. He was complaining about chest pains, but his heart sounded perfectly healthy. I think his pain stems from something entirely different. Something that gigantic fortune of his can never cure. He was recently given a small fine of 2,000 crowns for collaborating with the occupation. But none of his ill-gotten lands were given back to the poor farmers. None of his factories were shuttered. Nothing was confiscated. He will barely feel that fine, and the people he hurt will never see one bit of it. Margit rarely goes out these days. When she does, people either shun her or spit vile words in her direction, all because she once loved the wrong man. I visit her at the manor now and then, when her father is away, but she's become like a hermit. I hope she doesn't grow bitter, wandering that big, lonely house while she waits for the town to forgive her. I talked to Pastor Jacob at church this Sunday. He was in his element, gossiping with both Danes and Germans alike, and asking me for medical advice about ailments he doesn't suffer from. I suppose some things never change. Following the death of his father, Heinrich and his mother left Tinglev and returned to their hometown in Germany. According to local gossip, Heinrich made quite a stir at the station when he refused to heil at one of the Wehrmacht guards. I have received no news of the boy since, but I hope he's staying out of trouble. If he can change, then maybe others can too. I saw Charlotte at the market today. She was alone and could barely get the attention of any of the merchants. Even the villagers who had collaborated with the occupation acted like she wasn't there. Perhaps it wasn't intentional. Maybe they simply didn't notice her because they were too busy washing their own hands. I spoke to her, and her face lit up in a smile, though words seemed to fail my formerly chatty cousin. We shopped together, and despite all the cold stares, I think she was happy for the company. I visited the inn last Thursday. Mida was there, standing behind the bar and looking like her usual self. She keeps busy, serving beer and bantering with the locals. But every so often, I catch her staring blankly at the walls. These spells never last for long, but it seems her time inside the camps has left a mark. I wonder how long it will linger. For some people, the scars might remain forever. Harold was up and about when I came to the clinic this morning, and the front door was open for business. It seems that some things can change. However, he refused to give a German-speaking woman ointment for her rash. I suppose other things never change. At least, he doesn't stop me from helping whomever I see fit. After the war, Papa was interned at the Forhus camp, along with many other fathers in the German minority who had volunteered to help the occupiers. I visit him as often as I can. He seems to earnestly regret his actions and the harm they did to our family. In time, I hope that we might come to understand each other better. I pray that he will soon be released. There was no way to escape the war unscathed. But I did what I could to stem the bleeding. I helped those I could, but I would forever wonder if there was more I should have done, more people I could have saved. The wages of war were heartache and regret, but at least there was a brighter future on the horizon.